Okay, we're watching the worst period to time travel to. I'm expecting some dinosaurs. I like looking at animals and shit, learn about this shit. This is by Extinct Zoo. I like some of their videos, so very interested. We are streaming right now, so we got some people.
Let's say for 1
in
second
here.
that a mad scientist has created a time machine
See,
and is forcing you to
okay.
pick a random period to travel to. during
Chat,
the
let me know how
Mesozoic.
audio
A
is.
lot of your possible options would definitely lead to an unfortunate ending. But whatever you do, you really should not pick 150 million years ago, as this was an age where instant death was around nearly every corner. Dinosaurs, per usual for the Mesozoic, ruled on land at the time. But even for dinosaur standards, the ones that existed back then were especially terrifying, with certain paleontologists considering this time period to be a golden age for supersized sauropods
Audio
and
is good.
meat-loving theropods. Unfortunately, even if you could
Probably
snap
turn
your
it down like a
fingers and make the
tiny-
dinosaurs go away, 150 million years ago would still be a lot of nope, with the land, oceans, and skies
Wait, how
harboring a
long
lot
did
of
you say?
secrets that were, let's just
150
say,
million years
unfriendly to
ago?
life. Welcome to the late Jurassic.
Okay.
During this time, not even a map.
The Cretaceous is like scarier than the Jurassic though, no? Because the Cretaceous is like when the T-Rex was around and like all the carnivores. I mean, literally dinosaurs had such a crazy gap. Wasn't like the Triceratops and Triceratops and Stegosaurus like a crazy hundreds of millions of years gap of when they actually existed. But
would do you much good, as Earth's landmasses were fairly unrecognizable compared to current versions, with North America arguably being the most like its current self, having at least maintained a similar shape. Familiarity ends here though,
okay.
as to the south lays a
Damn,
giant
what the
mass
fuck
of
is
merged
that? It looks like a
continents
frog,
that form
bro.
together what some consider to have been the last supercontinent, Gondwana. This ancient landmass was composed of
Gondwana.
South America, the Arabian Peninsula, India, Antarctica, and Australia, creating the largest continent of the late Jurassic, which covered almost 1/6 of the
All the
Earth's
way down
entire
there.
surface, and from space would have looked like a mega blob of land. Surprisingly, not even Gondwana was the most foreign-looking continent at the time, with that title going to Laurasia, a giant continent within its own right that was made up of present-day Europe, Greenland, and parts of Asia. It's unlike present-day Europe,
Wait.
Greenland, and parts of waters It, unlike the rest of the Earth, was absolutely covered in its own right that was made
Wait, I wanted to see
up
it
of
again.
present-day Europe, Greenland, and expansive waters. A giant continent
You're telling me you can walk from Antarctica to Australia right there? Shit, is this like all the dinosaurs got around, man? Got a little bit across to get to North America though, but
within its own right that was made up of present-day Europe, Greenland, and parts of Asia.
appreciate you, dog.
It, unlike the
You're
rest of
funny.
the Earth, was absolutely covered by expansive waters that split and isolated much of the land, resulting in the countries we know of today being smaller and composed of numerous islands. Europe in particular was an island paradise that bore nearly no resemblance to the present. Its location was quite different too, being closer to North America than it is today. Meanwhile, China was right next to Iran and Turkey, yet extremely far away from India. Evidently, the geography was rather confusing, to say
Yeah,
the
what
least.
the fuck?
Thankfully, however, late Jurassic oceanography wasn't, since only two major bodies of water existed.
So did Jurassic have like the crazy water dinosaurs or what? Because like I said, I'm pretty sure the Cretaceous was crazier, but I'm curious to learn this. Big ass ocean in between land. Goddamn.
Pacific Ocean and the Tethys Ocean. The Tethys was already an ancient ocean at the time, having existed for over 100 million years. It covered the eastern hemisphere and had recently experienced significant tectonic activity, which had raised it up, resulting in the higher sea levels that submerged large parts of Laurasia. Despite it getting this tectonic boost, it was still smaller than the younger, yet still 50 million year old, Pacific Ocean, which now dominated the entire western hemisphere and would continue to expand as time passed. The late Jurassic also saw the emergence of yet another body of water we all know of, the Atlantic Ocean. Although at the time it resembled a sea more than anything else, being nearly entirely surrounded by land. The Atlantic's temperatures
y'all in
were
chat
also
are
unlike
learning,
they are
bro.
today, being
School's
remarkably
starting
warmer.
soon, so you better
And this was
learn
actually a
up right
trend
here.
seen worldwide, with seawater averaging 32.1 degrees Celsius
Alright, bro,
or
have a
90
good night.
degrees Fahrenheit, making it 25% hotter than the current average. Even in the deepest parts of the Pacific, temperatures were still considerably warmer, hovering around 17 degrees Celsius or 63 degrees Fahrenheit, akin to tap water. This heightened temperature is often attributed to the increased tectonic activity of the time, which would have led to very active volcanoes, thus spewing massive amounts of CO2 into the water. Currently, paleontologists are actually aware of a few of these now extinct volcanoes, one of which is Earth's largest known volcano, Tamu Massif. This absolute unit is located 1,600 kilometers or 990 miles east of Japan and covers more seafloor than the state of California, while standing almost twice as tall as Mount St. Helens. During its active life, Tamu Massif would have made the oceans more acidic and heated up the atmosphere, leading to warmer conditions on land as well. In fact, 150 million years ago was most likely just about the warmest period in the entire Jurassic, with an average daily temperature of 20 degrees Celsius or 68 degrees Fahrenheit, nearly 15% warmer than today. With this heat, Earth was experiencing climatic conditions that it hadn't for nearly 50 million years, with both the northern and southern hemisphere witnessing significant amounts of dry biomes, including deserts and savannas, which could be quite harsh on animals, considering that most also had distinct dry seasons, where severe droughts were not unheard of. Towards the equator, things got a little less cutthroat, as drier ecosystems gave way to lush expansive tropical forests that covered the vast majority of North Africa. However, the most toned-down conditions were not found there either, rather near and within the polar regions, since back then they were not brutally cold tundras.
So we're kind of on a whole like yap fest right now. What am I watching? We're watching the worst period to time travel to. I want to know, I'm going to understand climate and what the weather's like. I get it. I want to know the what creatures we're dealing with, because we're talking about the Jurassic period right now. So we better finish up this yap. I want to hear about some dinosaurs.
But rather temperate biomes similar to modern day Central Europe.
Because he said like 60 degrees or like some shit. Like, the climate doesn't seem that bad.
The polar regions were so much warmer back then that they didn't even have ice sheets or glaciers. And as a result, life was absolutely plentiful. And even in the harsher arid climates closer to the equator, life still found a way, with the richest known formations actually hailing from these brutal areas.
So I heard something like, isn't like North America as hot as like southern of South America? Isn't that what it's like, kind of like in the Jurassic period?
Particular thrived, and were enjoying a level of diversification never yet seen. Of all the groups lumbering around, theropods, sauropods, Neornithischians, and armored dinosaurs were the most established, with multiple species from each group often being found within a single ecosystem, resulting in a chaoticness rarely seen during the Mesozoic. This is perhaps best demonstrated by the Morrison Formation, which was an expansive North American biosphere that spanned across 13 states and was composed of arid savannas, forests, and shrubland. So far, over 40 dinosaurs are known to have resided there, including at least 10 different theropods.
Oh my god. This is what we're dealing with? Wait, is this all from the Jurassic period? Or is it like, is it going to be up here? Yo, what the hell is that supposed to be? With these little claws right here? These are the raptors. See, like, the raptors they showed in Jurassic Park, they only called them velociraptors because they actually sounded cool. Velociraptors actually are really small, but then there's like the Utah raptors that are like ginormous, way bigger.
All of which were big enough to hunt human-sized animals.
These fuckers.
Yet, unlike the Cretaceous, the Morrison's most dominant carnivores were not tyrannosaurs, who had yet to evolve. Rather, Allosauridae.
Thought it was just Allosaurus, or is like Allosaurus. Allosaurus is part of this family. What the fuck is... Okay, so you're just dead regardless, whatever the fuck.
The most abundant of them all was the Allosaurus. Typically dubbed the Lion of the Jurassic thanks to its striking appearance.
The Lion of the Jurassic. Never heard that in my entire life, but...
Predator, who sported razor-sharp teeth and a blood-inducing slashing bite that allowed it to hunt a wide range of herbivores. Studies have suggested that it may have even hunted in packs as well.
It is getting late.
But whatever the case, it undeniably dominated the lands, accounting for 75% of all carnivore remains. With such numbers, you'd expect it to be a small yet plentiful creature. But no, Allosaurus was a giant by current standards, with adults weighing an average of 1.7 tons and measuring 8.5 meters or 28 feet in length. This comfortably made it one of the biggest predators around.
I see his point, because like I say, like the Tyrannosaurus, like the T-Rex wasn't here yet, but like, are you really that big of prey to the T-Rex where like the T-Rex can get some better food compared to a human? Like maybe like an Allosaurus would be way more likely to attack you because the Allosaurus is smaller than the T-Rex. Like you might be like a better snack for him.
But remarkably, even it
Maybe
wasn't the biggest terrestrial
capping, though. I
predator
don't know.
on Earth. With that title going to the
Because they don't know if the
Saurophaganax,
T-Rex
which happened to live in North America as well.
really
This,
fed on
like-
like dead animals or not, you know? Fuck y'all talking about, bro. It's just dinosaur talk, you know how it is. I'm not sure, like, because maybe the T-Rex just fed on just like little shit or dead shit. It wasn't one that was trying to go off and kill some bigger creatures. But there's been like fossils and shit of like the T-Rex and Triceratops fighting one another, so I don't know.
The Allosaurus was a member of the Allosauridae family.
What
It
is
could
its
weigh up to
claws?
5 tons, equivalent to nearly 4 adult giraffes. In addition to classification, it was similar to the Allosaurus
That's
in
a
many ways,
badass
both
dinosaur.
possessing robust arms, sharp claws, serrated teeth, and distinct crests, but yet differed in the shape of its vertebrae and obviously body size.
Oh my god.
Alongside these two, there were still more carnivores who called the Morrison Formation home, with the most well-known ones including the Ceratosaurus, Torvosaurus, and the mysterious Edmarca rex. Both of the latter were Megalosauridae, and were also again gigantic,
What's your question, dog?
being more comparable to the Saurophaganax than other carnivores, with large specimens of Torvosaurus weighing around 4 tons, while the Edmarca rex could have weighed just as much as the Saurophaganax.
Yeah, you're fucked. Like you're like a good snack for bro. Like, what is his little claws? So is this like something that's like eventually gonna evolve into the T-Rex or something? Don't really see the point of these little guys. Don't know what they're gonna do. What could bro use these for?
On the other hand, Ceratosaurus, while ferocious, was a large step down from the giant carnivores mentioned, with large adults being similar in weight to polar bears, so obviously still not small by any means.
Yeah.
Regardless, many still consider
Well,
it to be
polar
the
bear can
underdog
fuck
of the
you up.
Jurassic, overlooking its agility and deadly bite that made it a highly successful predator.
We're watching
And most
the worst
also forget
period to
that
time
giant
travel
size
to.
was the exception, not the rule, since most Morrison predators were medium-sized like the Ceratosaurus or even smaller. For example, troodontids and early primitive relatives of tyrannosaurids made up the bulk of these smaller carnivores, who seldomly stood above a human's waist in stature. This may make you wonder how such small carnivores stood a chance in an ecosystem ruled by behemoths.
Right.
And the answer is simple: niching. Instead of contesting and competing with each other, predators would just occupy different ecological niches, which is exemplified by Ceratosaurus and Allosaurus, with the former being found near bodies of water, whereas the Allosaurus preferred open terrestrial spaces.
Yeah,
This helped keep
this
the
is
peace
the
in a
Jurassic period.
theropod-rich environment. But peace was not always possible.
I mean, from watching this, the Jurassic period low-key badass as fuck, bro. They had the whole Allosaurus family that I wasn't aware about. That would probably more likely to feast on you than a T-Rex for their size. Pretty badass.
As North America and much of the Earth
I'm not
were
sure if the
subjected to
Triceratops
severe
was
droughts
around yet,
that drove
though.
nearly
I don't think
all
so.
to violence, with fossilized remains indicating extreme amounts of cannibalism, theropod-on-theropod violence, and scavenging. It was during these moments that being smaller was an advantage, because it meant much less calories were needed to survive.
Their heads don't
And this
make
of
sense
course
to me.
applied to small herbivores as well, which were mainly made up of Neornithischians. More than 5 kinds are known from
thanks for the
150
follow.
million years ago, but
Katie.
a couple of the more
Appreciate you,
common ones
Katie.
would have been the cougar-sized Dryosaurus and the larger Camptosaurus, that weighed about half a ton. Despite their size differences, both had similar diets composed of ground-level plants, and the two also tragically shared a lack of defenses, with speed being their only real Plan A, Plan B, and Plan C, for that matter.
Right.
This problem, however, was not at all
And
common for other
Kylosaurus was gonna
herbivores,
fuck you up, though.
as many became ruthless themselves in
Damn.
order to ward off theropods, like the iconic Stegosaurus,
Mhm.
who happened to also be the
Okay, so
largest
the Triceratops
non-sauropod you
wasn't
could
around.
find, with exceptional adults reaching 9 meters or 30 feet in length and weighing 5.5 tons. Not to mention, it also had a thagomizer, which while may sound funny, would have felt terrible for potential predators, as this was the large bony spikes attached to the end of its tail,
Right.
turning it into a potent weapon individuals could use to pierce the bone of attacking carnivores. as evidenced in fossils by one unlucky Allosaurus. And Stegosaurus wasn't the
Was
only
that a
herbivore
dinosaur
with a good
asshole? What's this? What is this up here? Why is it like on the tail though? That can't be a dinosaur asshole, no? Alright, I'll keep playing.
by one unlucky Allosaurus. And Stegosaurus wasn't the only herbivore with a good theropod deterrent in these lands, as fresh on the scene was Murapelta, one of the oldest known ankylosaurs.
Okay.
It was
Before it
considerably
evolved.
smaller than its later relatives, with adults only weighing 562 kilograms or 1,239 pounds. Yet, it did have the trademarked heavy armor that made ankylosaurs famous, with osteoderms spreading across the entirety of its upper body. These
How
osteoderms
does an
varied in
animal
size and
evolve
sometimes
like
had
that? It's
sharpened
just
edges,
So crazy to
particularly
me.
when located near vulnerable spots. Sadly though, armor was no thagomizer, and numerous remains of this ankylosaur were found with signs of predation by theropods. Such a fate presumably extended to other existing armored dinosaurs as well, which included another ankylosaur, the Gargoylosaurus, and the stegosaurid Alcovosaurus. At this point, you may be tired of hearing about so many dinosaurs, but
No,
to
I'm
really
not. I'm
drive
not at
home the
all.
fact that this was one of their golden ages, you cannot forget about the most abundant dinosaurs of them all,
Niger?
sauropods. In fact, 150 million years ago may have been the apex period for this group, as they were typically the most common
I
dinosaurs
try to guess the
about,
long neck.
with Camarasaurus holding the title
my
of the most
gosh.
abundant animal in the Western Hemisphere. But it was by no means alone, and a mix of different sauropod
We
families ran
support
rampant,
you, Jivo,
with
with
the
a
two
gay
key players
emote. What are we
being the
doing, guys?
Diplodocids and the Macronarians. Both of these families were powerhouses with multiple iconic members, some of them including household names like Brachiosaurus, Diplodocus, Supersaurus, Barosaurus, Brontosaurus, Apatosaurus, and the honorable mention Marapunosaurus, which belonged to neither family but was absolutely massive. And in reality, every sauropod alive then, including those unmentioned, were
Look at
pretty massive.
Supersaurus. Look at that shit. Look how long bro is. I mean, look at this right here. Like, why do they like post it up like that?
The smallest weighing 13 tons, while the largest sat around 70 tons. Naturally, with such crazy fauna, many have been amazed by the Morrison since its discovery. And yet incredibly, the Morrison wasn't exactly special, as much of the world had similar ecosystems where the same groups of dinosaurs dominated. And in some places, even the exact same dinosaurs could be found. For instance, if you try to escape the Allosaurus, Ceratosaurus, or Torvosaurus by fleeing to Europe, you'd still run into them. While on the flip side, you could also experience some absolutely great sauropod sightseeing in Gondwana, where evidence of Brachiosaurus, Barosaurus, and Camarasaurus were found. And even dinosaurs unique to other landmasses still tended to follow the same trends seen in the Morrison, with many having counterparts across the globe. For example, Tanzania had the titanic Giraffatitan,
What the
which
fuck?
played a similar ecological role as
Who
Brachiosaurus.
comes up with these names, bro?
Additionally, Tanzania also saw the legs of Kentrosaurus, the Stegosaurus,
I heard like whoever discovers the creature is the one that gets to name it. I don't know how accurate that is, but
and counterpart and close relative of Stegosaurus. In Europe, the exact situation is again seen, with sauropods like the Oceanotitan and stegosaurs like the Centurus peppering the land. Where Gondwana and Europe differed, however, was that they had a new kind of theropod family not yet seen in North America or anywhere else for that matter, and that is the Carcharodontosauridae, which were partially characterized by high neural spines, proportionally long arms, and long narrow skulls. The oldest and first of them to evolve was the Veterupristosaurus, which resided in Tanzania and weighed up to 1.65 tons, and likely hunted a mix of stegosaurs and juvenile sauropods. Strangely, in China, which wasn't far away from Europe, Carcharodontosauridae weren't found, although they had their very own unique apex predator, the Yangchuanosaurus.
who the fuck comes up
Following
with
the
that?
trend, this
Why
was
is
a
it called
monstrous
that?
theropod that was nearly as long as the largest
Yankonosaurus.
Torvosaurus and weighed up to 3.4 tons, making it the largest predator in all of Asia.
Okay.
From a distance, you may mistake it for a unit
I've
of
never seen this type of dinosaur before.
an Allosaurus, since the two were closely related and shared many similar features,
Okay.
but they were not cut from the same cloth, as Yangchuanosaurus was not an Allosauridae member, rather a metriacanthosaurid, which in Greek means moderately spined lizards. So it's not surprising that this group's defining trait was, well, moderately sized spines. Beyond the uniqueness of Yangchuanosaurus, Asia was again much like the rest of the world, with the 4 main groups reigning supreme and bearing multiple species. Some of the most well-known that lived at the time included Mamenchisaurus, Yingxianosaurus, Donosaurus,
Bro,
and
what in the racist Asian
Mamenchisaurus,
name is that?
Yingxianosaurus,
Alright.
Donosaurus, and Leishanosaurus. And it wasn't just the dinosaurs that would have made your eyes widen, as the late Jurassic accommodated a wide range of non-dinosaurs too, with the most dominant being crocodiliforms. Like dinosaurs, they came in a variety of sizes, and inhabited a diverse range of habitats, but were usually on the smaller side comparatively. Most, like the gator-sized Amphicodylus, were semi-aquatic, hunting down fish, amphibians, and turtles that dwelled near them. But a few were actually fully terrestrial and could appear fairly nightmarish, as seen with Halopus,
What the
who had
hell
slender,
is
skinny
that?
limbs, giving
Why do we need to learn that about, bro? The worst period of time travel to? Is this guy a threat? I don't see him as a threat. You know? I mean, I'll get my fire posted up and I'll cook this guy right here. I'm eating him. As long as like I don't get, I'm probably gonna get poisoned about whatever this is. How do they come up with this color scheme? Very interesting.
it an odd, unsettling appearance. Although you wouldn't have to worry, because Halopus
Thanks,
was a
okay,
tiny creature
yeah.
that rarely grew taller than a boot, and mostly stuck to insects and other small prey. The other terrestrial crocs were quite small too, likely a result of living in the shadow of dinosaurs. And another group that ran into this size problem as well was our very own ancestors, the mammaliaforms. By now they'd been around for over 100 million years, and were well adapted for a mix of lifestyles,
Our
with older
ancestors?
fossils showing that some had developed the ability to glide, climb trees, and be semi-aquatic. Their diets were also quite versatile, with some specializing in plants, while others nibbled on meat or dabbled in both areas, as seen with the omnivorous Guimarododon, who may even have scavenged on dinosaurs. Yet, it was still like other mammaliaforms,
What? I've
which is
never
to say,
seen this.
small dinosaurs.
What does this look like, bro? This is a weird dog, bear, fox hybrid thing. Is it aquatic too? It's like in the water.
Yet, it was still like other mammaliaforms, which is to say, small, as on average these
Okay.
guys were no bigger than a shrew, making them hard to notice amongst so many titans. Nonetheless, there was a group that wasn't exactly giant but were hard to miss, and these were the pterosaurs. The pterosaurs had established control of the skies roughly 80 million years prior to this point and flew mostly unchallenged. Interestingly though, they weren't very populous as only a few remains from the time are known, yet their bones were geologically widespread, indicating a successful conquest across a significant portion of Earth. Typically, late Jurassic pterosaurs seem to have preferred marine and shoreline habitats where they could fill their stomachs with fish, insects, shellfish, and carrion. It's also been hypothesized that the largest pterosaurs could have actively hunted certain terrestrial creatures, with the biggest pterosaur being Lusognathus. This pterosaur lived in Europe
Oh,
and was a
got
leviathan compared to
Eat on his
coexisting.
shit, bro. Imagine having to deal with this shit. Got red eyes and everything. What is the point of this? What's this arch here? I don't understand the point of that. Oh yeah, you're cooked. Nah. Hell no, I don't want to deal with that.
Relatives, with an estimated wingspan of 3.6 meters or 12 feet, which along with sharp straight teeth could have enabled it to hunt other pterosaurs considering that most were less than half its size. And as king of flyers, the Lusognathus didn't have much to worry about. Although it wasn't alone, as along with pterosaurs, bird-like dinosaurs had managed to take flight as well. In that day and age, they were still a novelty and very rare, with only one kind being known from that specific era, the Archaeopteryx.
That turn
This
into
dinosaur is
raptors or
extremely
what?
monumental to paleontology, as it is the earliest known capable of powered flight. There are other
Powered
contenders for this
flight.
title too, who date back to 165 million years ago, but thus far, many paleontologists argue on the classification of these older animals. The Archaeopteryx would have used its flying abilities to hunt small prey, including reptiles and insects, and escape predators, as it was a tiny fellow who was similar in size to a modern-day magpie. With so much life around you and above you, You probably won't be surprised to know that the waters were home to many as well, with the major difference being that while a lot of creatures on land were wondrous, the oceans and seas were namely home to pure nightmares, notably the plesiosaurs. These were marine reptiles that were distinguished by flat bodies, short tails, 4 flippers, and had a cosmopolitan distribution, meaning they could be found worldwide. They greatly varied in size, and many were apex predators, with the most terrifying of the bunch being the pliosaur family. While we commonly imagine plesiosaurs with long narrow necks, pliosaurs were the ones that had short necks and massive skulls, filled with sharp, conical teeth, which allowed them to hunt down medium and large-sized prey. You've probably heard of the most famous one, the Liopleurodon, but it had actually been dead for 5 million years at the time. Not to worry though, as the late Jurassic found an even bigger, more terrifying replacement, the Pliosaurus. Adults of this pliosaur were among the largest ever recorded, reaching up to 10 meters or 33 feet in length and weighed 5 tons. With their size, they easily killed whatever they could catch, including what we consider the jaws of the modern oceans, sharks. And now, this isn't to say that sharks were chumps back then. Yet, they were no pliosaur and didn't come close in size. But they still would have been a problem for more toned down animals, including fish, and another famous staple of Mesozoic oceans, the ichthyosaurs. While ichthyosaurs had been the true giants for millions of years during the Triassic and early Jurassic, they had experienced a size decline in these days, mainly due to competition with the plesiosaurs. However, this battle definitely wasn't one-sided, as shallow seas and open oceans still had plenty of different ichthyosaur species that filled different niches and could be up to 7 meters or 23 feet long, which is crazy to think about when considering that Triassic ichthyosaurs were sometimes almost 4 times bigger, making them absolutely horrifying to say the least. Don't panic though, as this time period had one more trick up its sleeve to give you nightmares, and that is the Thalattosuchians, commonly nicknamed the marine crocodiles. In reality, they weren't really true crocodiles, rather primitive distant relatives, though they did superficially resemble modern crocs, with the biggest difference coming from their limbs and tails, which in certain members had evolved into flippers to provide locomotion. Like many other animals, these marine crocs were found globally, and in some locations
wait,
predators.
This is how big this fucker is? No chance. No, it looked like the crocodile. No, this can't be realistic. No.
They had compressed and serrated teeth that allowed them to shear chunks of flesh off prey, which consisted of fish,
they're definitely just like regular crocodiles,
small plesiosaurs, and turtles. The 2 largest living members, Dacosaurus and Machimosaurus, may have hunted large animals too. And coincidentally, Machimosaurus was actually the largest marine croc we know of, with adults being equal to the largest ichthyosaurs in length, and giving potential time travelers just one more reason to avoid Earth 150 million years ago.
Hey man, I definitely feel like we got clickbaited here. The worst period to time travel to, it should have just been called Understanding the Jurassic Era. That's basically what it was. But hey, I respect the hustle. This was a very good research video. Extinct Zoo makes extremely good videos. Definitely a good watch. And yeah, would not want to be part of this. It was interesting learning about the Allosaurus and its family and everything. But I hope you guys learned something from this video. Education starting soon, guys. It's end of July. All right, better get to your local Target and start getting your school supplies, okay?